I was a child raised in a family that used alcohol, abused alcohol, I should say. So I got into the wrong crowd, and they were using, cannabis. They were drinking. They were dabbling with hallucinogenics. I would get arrested. I know I had gone into what they called the drunk tank back then. I don't know how many times. I could see I was going down a bad path, but I would pick myself back out. Like I graduated high school, then I went to trade school, I went to cosmetology school, and I sought that through. I did not get my license, which was a really big hit to me because I felt like a failure. I started to drink more heavily, and it was a blur. But I got pregnant. I ended up with somebody new. I got pregnant with my son. Beautiful baby, awesome birth. I was all natural, like did not do anything. I steered clear away from alcohol, any substances, and it was about 6 months in. I literally just lifted him out of the bathtub and I felt something pull in my back, and I almost dropped him. Thank God his father was nearby, and I'm like, grab him, I'm gonna drop him. And I could not walk for like a week straight. So my aunt's like, you gotta go to the doctor. They did do x-rays, they did MRIs. We did find out I did have degenerative disc disease, which runs in my family, we learned. But I also had 2 bulging discs just from picking my son up out of the bathtub. That's what they had explained to me. And Perk 5s was what they started me on, and it built from that. Like, obviously, as time went on, pain's getting worse. I'm doing physical therapy. Nothing seems to be getting better. So I went very quickly from Percocet 5s to Perk 30s. And so a downward spiral. And they were just, I felt like they were throwing them at me. And before I knew it, I was addicted faster than I could blink. Well, little by little, I was losing things. So my car went first. Without a car, you can't get to your job. As this is all happening, I'm still like continuing to get worse in my addiction. And next thing I know, I'm being kicked out of my home. I'm being evicted. And I have to, hands down, give his father all the credit in the world, because I literally went to him and said, as you see, like, I'm losing everything and I'm just not capable right now to care for him. So he stepped up and he took him and he cared for him. And to this day, just, he's an amazing father. I had him at 21 and I had my daughter at 26. So throughout those years, just downward spiraling. I meet my daughter's father, get pregnant pretty much immediately, like not being safe, I felt so far gone in every way that you could have possibly imagined at that point. My pregnancy was anything but healthy. I was still prescribed at that time. They said, if we take you off, that's more dangerous, so we'll just keep you on this low dose. They did tell me DCYF would, at the very end of it, enter, prescribed or not, you have substances that is now going to be in your child. So I had her, again, very unhealthy pregnancy. Thank God she came out, and yes, there were some complications. She obviously had withdrawals, and that part's always hard too, because
if it's too much, you don't have to.
I've told this I don't know how many times, and I just, that's weird that I think now, like, she's 9 now, and as she gets older, like, different things come up, and you're like, the health stuff, and you're like, is this something that's going to develop, into something because you were not healthy? They say that from the very beginning, like, you might have a very healthy child when you first deliver, maybe even the first few years of their life, but down the road, they're at such a higher risk of addiction and mental health struggles and all the challenges that you experienced. DCYF was in, as I said, from the minute she was born. An assessment was opened. Shortly after that, it was Mother's Day, and I was messed up on benzos and my painkillers. And yeah, took my mom out to eat for Mother's Day, and I don't remember any of it, but I had my mom, my daughter, and my daughter's father in the car with me, and we were leaving. They were trying to say, you absolutely cannot drive, like, look at you. And I would get very violent when I was under the influence of benzodiazepines. So I got behind the wheel and I got pulled over shortly up the road. Thank God I didn't drive too far of a distance, and that I got a DWI for that, and I lost my license. That was a big moment for me there. And then DCYF came back in after that. They got the call, they came in and they took my daughter. And that's where it was like, okay, this is crunch time. I don't have a choice. Again, I've been sick and tired for years now. So I fought. That was the turning point for me. I did meet a really amazing support there. She fought with me through my struggles of, there wasn't transportation. I had to go to Dartmouth because there was no treatment centers up here. So I traveled to Dartmouth and had to use Medicaid transportation services. Then they told me I had co-occurring disorders and my case was too complex. So they kicked me out, and I'm like, now what do I do if Dartmouth isn't gonna take me? Who in the world is gonna take me? And I fought this hard. Like, at that point I felt helpless, but she was the one who kept me going. And my mom, of course, too. My mom was really rooting for me at that time, even through her darkest days and her, biggest battles that she was facing. She was my biggest cheerleader. They kept me motivated to keep going, and eventually, I did get into a program back in Dartmouth, but I was able to get rides down there. They kept me on until Colebrook had opened an MAT center. So that's where I ended up transferring to about 6 months after that, which was nearing the end of my case with DCYF. So there are things that happened during that year of praying, my last year of addiction, if you will, praying and asking for guidance and help and strength and courage to get through all of the humps and, just barriers that I was facing. And so I started going to church, and everything just sort of lined up. So with going back to church and feeling some really, really, like, I don't even know what to call it. The church told me I got saved. So if that says anything, some people will know what that means, some people won't. But truly, it did happen to me. And that was like where I was like, this is real. And this is clearly the path you want me to go down. So I kept fighting it. And 9 months, I think I was 9 months into my case and I reunified. So I was like, you've got to be kidding. And I was about 3 months into my sobriety at that point. So got to close out my case, got to reunify with my daughter, started to build a relationship with my son's father. That took time, but over the course of, I'd say, that first year, really seeing like, no, this was real and I was taking it serious and there were changes happening. He took me serious too, and I was able to start having my son start coming and staying with me. It was no longer me going to him. So I just, again, it felt really good just to see that, things slowly but surely do start to turn around the better you do in life. So the more good you do, the more good you give for yourself and for others, the more good that starts to come back to you.